She goes into the bedroom and it's kind of a hoarding situation. There's just stuff everywhere. I go, "Ma'am, what are you looking for?" "I'm looking for my husband." And we all looked at each other. What? Suddenly something moves and this object falls. It's a Ziploc bag and I catch it. It's full of gray powder. I go, "What?" I'm not getting it. She goes like, "Oh, there he is." I go, What? And she goes, "That's my husband right there. That's where I keep him." And I've got the gray powder ash all over my hands now. I go, "Here you go." I hand it over. I look at my guys. I go, "I'll be outside."
So it's no secret that we talk a lot about public safety in this show. We talk about mental health. We talk about literally everything. Normally, I have my buddy Cody on here, but he is a slacker today and decided that he needed to work. So, to get things rolling, like I said, normally we talk about mental health, or at least we used to. It used to be a big talking point. Then we started talking to some other people, kind of branching out a little bit and getting to know some business leaders, getting to know other people. We've been hitting hard on the fire and EMS side. From time to time, we've had some police officers on here. One of my good friends, Eric Foster, has been on the show before. We got him back on today, and I think we're going to hit hard. We're trying to hit a little bit harder on the comedy side of things, because that is one of the things that helps us the most in as first responders is comedic relief. We crack a lot of jokes. Sometimes it's not the most appropriate time, but we try the best that we can. We're all human. We make mistakes. I was actually on a call the other day. I was on the scene of a cardiac arrest, and we were fortunate enough that we had a decent amount of people on scene so that we could rotate out, give, chest compressions for a couple minutes, and then put somebody else in, somebody that's had some time to rest and get ready for the next time. And as I was talking to this group of people from the new department that I'm on, I was explaining to them that when I was full time in EMS, I went on a lot of cardiac arrests. When you work in a bigger city, you tend to go on a lot of those calls. And I was telling them that during my time of doing that, it was not uncommon for me to randomly sing a song or crack a joke. It wasn't to make fun of the patient. It wasn't to make fun of the patient's family. It was not making fun of everybody. It was to make the situation a little bit more lighthearted. When you go on enough of these calls, you start to get to the point where you've been there, you've done that, you've seen it before. It doesn't get monotonous. I feel like that's the wrong word for it, but it gets to the point where it's just another day. And sometimes, in order to get through some of the crap that you're dealing with and to deal with those crappy scenes, the heartbreaking scenes, to deal with people that are hurting, sometimes you have to crack some jokes, because, again, at the end of the day, the best way to get through pain and sadness and all of those heartbreaking things is humor. As I mentioned before, it's not always the best timing, and we try the best that we can to keep family from hearing some of our humor, and we try to keep it PG as much as we can as well. With that, we obviously see some pretty funny things on scenes too. It's not always death, it's not always shooting, stabbings, mutilated bodies from car accidents, or horrible things that people do to one another. Sometimes we see some very humorous things, like your occasional guy that's running down the highway naked for whatever reason, or running down through the city naked, yelling some kind of saying or singing Christmas songs or whatever. We've seen that from time to time as well. Sometimes you get somebody that is well known in your area for using a specific drug of choice, and they like to come up and they're missing about three-quarters of the teeth in their mouth, and they come up and talk to you and want to thank you, but they're spitting all over you while they're talking because they don't have any teeth left. Sometimes things like that get humorous. And a lot of times the people that we're laughing with are laughing with us as well. Sometimes our partners do some things that are hilarious, like they mess something up royally or whatever the case may be. So we try to bring a little bit more comedy into this show, just like we do in our everyday life. And one of the guys that I find very funny, I think he agrees with me on a lot of the things that I have just mentioned, is, again, my buddy Eric Foster. And Eric, has started messing around with some stuff on TikTok, posting some funny things. Him and I will talk every once in a while, and we just share some humorous situations that we've both been involved in. And yeah, so we'll go ahead and bring Eric on. What's going on there, buddy?
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I kind of stepped into your shoes a little bit today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I went and did a ride along with a buddy of mine to kind of
We do.
see what he does. His job's a little bit different than yours. I won't go too much into detail because they kind of fly under the radar, but they
Mhm.
actually fly under the radar very well. I honestly didn't even know that job existed until he got in about 8 years ago. That buddy of mine and we used to work in dispatch together, and he left dispatch to go do this job. And they're hiring right now. So I thought, well, what better way to get an understanding of the job and see if I would be interested in it? I don't know if I am or not. The pay's kind of low, but I figured I'd go check it out, do a ride along with him. So that's what I did today.
He's the last person I ever thought would go into law enforcement too, which makes him so great at his job because I still think if he walked, into somewhere on the job, but it's not a cop.
You ever seen 21 Jump Street?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he would be the perfect person for that. If any state in the US decided they wanted to do a 21 Jump Street program, he'd be perfect for it. He can go into any high
Mhm.
school, he could go into any college, and he'd fit right in. And the guy's only like a few years younger than
Oh
me.
yeah.
He'd fit right in.
He is one of those guys that's just ageless, like this happens. I just think it's great that he fits so well into that role. But yeah, I mean, I was listening to your intro and it was funny because I was thinking about the inappropriate things, and I remember I was helping out with CPR a while back, and the chief of all people, this fire department said, when we were doing chest compressions, they're like, just have the song "Staying Alive" in your head, and all of us just were shocked, like it works, but again, the list of songs totally inappropriate for when you're doing CPR. You know, just I mean, I was thinking of another one, "Bites the Dust" and "Knocking on Heaven's Door." I mean, just the
Yeah.
weird stuff that comes into our heads.
I would sing songs that did not go to the beat of chest compressions because literally I could be in a room filled with, it's me and my partner who were working with an EMS agency, and we could have, a crew of firefighters on the scene and, family members outside or whatever. And, we've got 3 or 4 officers on scene because at this point they don't want to go to the normal job. They want to sit there and just hang out. And I could just start randomly singing a song. Or, it's 3 in the morning and I'm telling everybody that I'm hungry and I'm ready for food. Like that happens all the time. Like people don't understand it because people don't get our sense of humor. And that's okay. But it's just one of those things. Like you have to have humor in this job. I'm not saying you have to be funny because let's be honest. I know some people that work in public safety that have zero sense of humor. Zero. Like they talk like this all the time, and when they go to laugh, they're like ha ha ha. Like I know people like that. I don't
Mhm.
understand how they do this job. Like they're the exact definition of being a robot in the field, but you have to. You have to have it's for your
Mhm.
own sanity. You have to have some form of humor.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I got introduced to humor, early on. Like when I started out in the jail back in, I mean, we're going back way back to '04. I just gotten out of the military in Iraq, and you kind of get to know those people. And there was this one that zero sense of humor. We were using his set of cuffs one night, and we went to uncuff the guy, and by that point I'd forgotten whose cuffs they were, and I looked, he had scratched them on a name on there that said Killer. And I held up the cuffs the whole shift. I go, hey, Killer, here's your cuffs. And it was this, individual. And everyone looked at him and just shook their heads, of all people. But again, I could, I did not outrank this individual. So all the thoughts in my head, I'm like, you were the last person I would ever think should have, Killer on your handcuffs. But you just run into those kind of people. I mean, they're
Yeah.
either dry or they don't fit into the job, and somehow sometimes they just progress up.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was on that scene of the cardiac arrest, and the guys we were talking, and obviously, we're trying to be quiet. Family's in the other room, and one of the guys who doesn't really know me very well was like, are you CPR trained? And I said, yeah. Said, I've been in EMS. I worked in EMS for almost 10 years. And he's like, oh, all right. Like volunteer or what? And I said, no, worked in the city for a while. I said, you're fortunate because this is the first time I've been on a cardiac arrest call in quite a while. Normally I'd be singing you a song right now, or, talking about what sounds good for dinner or something. Like this kid's fairly new. I don't think I don't think he's been on too many of those calls. And in this town, it's a tiny town. Like they don't get a whole lot of calls, but it was just one of those things like popped into my head. I'm like, man, I can remember specific calls where I can tell you exactly what I was singing, like some Shakira song or, whatever, just some random song. And I'm sitting there dancing as I'm doing compressions on somebody or whatever. It's not affecting the compressions. Like I'm still giving adequate compressions. But in fact, on this call, I was the only one that, when it was time to rotate, I got up and they looked at the monitor and they're like, oh, shock advised. Oh, let's go ahead and do it. And that was the only time I was like, guess I still got it.
I love I love finding out about the fire department and EMS. Like, you guys have to be certified in certain things. Just like, law enforcement, you can't use a taser unless you're certified. I remember a call with Northeast Fire years ago. The apartments there on DuPont Road, they had a small balcony fire on the third floor. And so they put the ladder up and they were going up there. And I was standing there just not doing anything. And someone called down. They're like, hey, we need such and such bag. And this young fireman was standing there and he goes, I can't go up that ladder. And I looked at him. I said, it's a ladder, bro.
Yeah.
I haven't been checked on this ladder yet. And I looked at the chief and I said, is there anything to stop me from going up this ladder? And he kind of was like, technically, no. I said, all right, I got this. So I grabbed the backpack and I'm climbing the ladder and I'm yelling, I'm a real fireman. And, of course, everyone's just dying laughing.
Yeah.
And
You got to live your
I handed
dream
off the
right there.
bag. I did, it, I never heard the end of it from those guys and girls, but it was great because I turned that into a joke and I climbed down the ladder. Said, all right, dude, next time you're working, get checked out. It's a ladder. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
So
not that difficult.
that's odd. So in Indiana, there are some states, I think Ohio is one of them. Ohio, they do things really different. Like at least they used to. I don't know if they still do it this way, but in Ohio, it used to be that you could get a certification in literally anything. Like you wanted to,
Mhm.
for training, you were going to do ladder ops. Well, now you're certified in ladder operations or whatever. I mean, that's a stretch, but that's essentially how it was. I don't know if it's still that way. But in Indiana, I mean, unless they had some kind of policy in their SOPs, or they maybe they weren't even certified anyway, because we've got obviously you got your fire 1 and 2 certifications. Those are the main certs that the state wants. I think now they're actually the minimum requirement. I don't think they do. They might have brought back like the mandatory, the 24, but they used to have a mandatory, and it was basically like the most basic certification you can get. Technically, the only thing you were allowed to do with the mandatory was outside operations. You couldn't do interior attacks or anything. But fire 1 and 2, you're trained in everything. You're trained to set up a ladder. You're trained how to, work from a ladder, all that stuff. So not really sure why. It might have just been, it could have been fear. Like, hey, I don't feel comfortable going up on that ladder.
I,
Okay, cool, whatever.
I don't know. I mean, it was the third. Yeah, it was the third floor, but I know to get checked off, firefighter, you have to climb the big ladder. So I don't know what it was. I just saw an opportunity, and I mean, you just take it. But it's really, like I said, it's always interesting. On every call is different, and you just
Yeah.
never know. We had a fire in Leo, I think 2 months ago, where they said animals were still inside. So the fire was pretty well contained to the garage, but they had gotten the dog out, but the homeowner was like, hey, my kid's hamster and turtles are still inside. So another, an off-duty officer and myself, we ran into the house and, it was smoke filled, whatever. And, I just grabbed the whole hamster cage and got out. Being the, professional that I am, I saw the news media and I contacted my sheriff's department. I'm like, hey, am I allowed to say, we rescued some pets? And absolutely. So it was, you can see the news
Make
blurb.
us look good.
Yep. Assisted by the Allen County, and rescued a couple of pets. I just, it's just for fun.
One of my favorite calls, I say favorite now, it wasn't at the time, but it was involving you. We got dispatched on I don't even want to call it a field fire because it was literally a little patch of grass that was on fire off the interstate. And it was our first call on that department in probably a week. Like we were just going through a slow phase at that time. And I remember, sweet, we got something we can do. So we all jumped, it was like 3 or 4 of us jumped into a truck, started heading that way. Get there and you're parked there with your squad car and you're holding a bottle of water that's half empty and there's no fire around. So I, called on scene, said, we'll check and advise. I get out and I'm like, hey, where's fire at? And you said, I put it out with my water bottle. I said, you did what? Yeah, put it out with my water bottle. I said, I don't arrest your bad guys. You don't put out my fires. I was hot. I was livid. And I think you did it again. And I'm like, what are we doing? Quit taking my job.
It was funny because I always consider myself MacGyver. We're from the MacGyver era, just taking what we have. And I didn't want to use I have a fire extinguisher in my squad, but I also had a water bottle and I punctured the top of it with my knife, and that adds more pressure. So I'm like, I was really proud of myself because I thought it was ingenious.
Yeah, I bet you were. I was really disappointed.
I stopped after that though. I know.
Well,
you
I
guys
think
started yelling
you
at
got
me.
in trouble. I think you got in trouble with the department to the north of us too, because I think you did the same thing to them. And I think the guy that's now the chief of that department, who we've had on the show before, Chief Boren, I think he also said the same thing to you.
Yeah, his quote was, "I don't bring guns to scenes. You don't put out my fires." And that's both of you had talked to me, and I remember I think it was something else was on fire after that, and I went to the hood of my car and I sat down and I crossed my arms. Like, nope. And I think I had young firefighters that showed up and they're like, why aren't you doing anything about this? And I just shrugged my shoulders. I said, I got in trouble too many times. I'm done. Nope. I'm not a fireman, but I love I love the fun rivalry we have.
So I had every intention when I was going on this ride along, just because the guy that I was riding with, I'm real good friends with. I had every intention of buying like 6 donuts and bringing them with me. Not because he likes donuts, but everybody knows the joke about cops and donuts. The problem is that guy will eat anything, almost anything. Found out today he doesn't like Thai food, so I'm questioning what's wrong with him. I had every intention of bringing donuts, and I forgot. I had to go up to Detroit yesterday to visit my grandmother who's sick and in the hospital. That kind of took my mind off of things, but yeah, I had every intention of doing that and forgot all about it.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah, the donut joke, I kind of threw it back. So I went early to a firehouse. I'll stop in at the different houses, in the morning, just kind of check in, see what's going on. There was a fire department that just hired a bunch of new firemen, and this one trainee, he showed up and he had a single donut in this clear little to-go box. And I looked at him, I said, dude, you're really brave. Not only you're bringing you're brand new here, but you're bringing one parlor donut to a firehouse. And you didn't bother to buy any more for everyone else for the shift. And everyone looked at me and they looked at the container. The container had absolutely 0 markings on it. And they're like, Foster, how do you know where that came from? I said, listen, I take my job seriously. I know
I'm a
all the donut
professional
shops.
donut tester.
But well, if you've ever been, in Fort Wayne, if you've been to a parlor donut shop, they're basically croissants that are decorated. So it wasn't that hard, but still I thought it was, a great jab and a
I
jab
feel
at
like
myself.
though, I feel like you could look at two separate containers, one containing a Dunkin' Donuts donut in it, and the other one containing like, I don't know, what's the other Krispy Kreme, and I feel like you could tell the difference between which one was which.
And I think anyone who actually enjoys them could.
I don't eat enough donuts to be able to do that.
I yeah, I don't I buy them more and I'm gonna hear BS on this, but I buy them more for my kids than anything. Just for something different, like a treat.
That's what you say.
But no, I know. See, exactly. And people are like, oh, no, no, no. Yeah, right. That's what I would say too. And, and it's funny because we're getting to that age where we have to watch we eat, but at the same time, I want to live. As long as I'm hitting
I
the
watch
gym.
what I I watch what I eat. I watch it as it goes into my mouth and then I watch it come out. I'm on a seafood diet. I see food and I eat it.
We have, we have the gym rats on our department, and some of them are, in charge of our training. And it's funny because they would try to implement some things into our training. And finally, I did one of these. Go, listen, this is never going to happen to this. Okay. I love pizza and I love chicken wings way too much. But I said, let's make the training realistic, but we don't have to, be doing like we're going to be an American Ninja Warrior.
It's fair. Yeah. So I was talking to my buddy and I was like, so what's your academy like? And because it's a different branch of police. So I guess I just assumed that things were a little bit different. You would think this individual was big into running just based off of his
Mm-hmm.
size and structure. He's not. He hates running. And I was like, well, we've got
Mm-hmm.
that in common. I loathe running. That's why I joined the fire department because I don't have to run. But still same traditional requirements. You got to run a mile and a half in like 24 hours
Mm-hmm.
or something stupid, and you got to do a sprint and however many push-ups without stopping and a certain amount of sit-ups in a minute, or I probably had that backwards, but traditional stuff. And I'm like, well,
Could he jump?
I don't, I think they had to put a box down for him so he could jump onto the box and then jump up.
So how did he pass that? Because, I'm one of
I
the
don't
few
know.
people that he's one of the few people I can make short joke about. Because everyone I work with is like 6'2".
Yeah. He got on when he was 23 when he got on. So that would make him 31 now. So yeah, I'm not sure. I made fun of him today though, because he's got a seatbelt extender, and I'm like, is that so when you have your phone books on the seat and you can see over the steering wheel that it's
Mm-hmm.
at the normal height for you? And he's like, no, it's easier when I'm in uniform because they're plain clothes all the time. No, it's easier when I'm in a uniform. I
Right.
said, all right, bro, whatever your excuse is.
Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah, I mean, and it's so you guys have like a fire academy that you guys go to, and where we have
Technically,
ILEA belong.
technically speaking, yes. However, um, so like in this county, for example, yes, they're starting to do a fire academy for the whole county. But historically, how it's gone is there's a department somewhere in the state that is putting on like a fire 1 and 2 class. Now, for the
Mm-hmm.
curriculum, there's not really a normal curriculum. There's not any PT affiliated with it. There is a department that has tried throwing in PT in
Mm-hmm.
with it. It didn't take off very well. But you got to remember, the 70% of the departments in the United States are volunteer departments.
Mm-hmm.
I am currently a volunteer, so I'm not making fun of them, but a lot of the volunteers are 250, 300 pounds. I mean, they're big boys. They're not necessarily in the best shape, and they work a full-time job on top of it. So physical fitness is not necessarily the top of their priority. But I am way more into physical fitness now than I have been in a long time. But the mile and a half, I don't run. I hate running. hate it with a passion. I could do sprints. I'll sprint all day long. But long distance running, not really my forte. So I don't know. Wife and I are going to talk it over and we'll see. I may or I may not. The pay is kind of the big thing. I don't really know how I feel about that. I don't want to put my family in a bind.
Yeah, the reason I was asking, so our mutual friend, he went down to the law enforcement academy, and I was 23 when I went through there. And again, I started this job. I was like, I'm going to have fun. Excuse me. So when I went down there, I was relatively young because the average age of law enforcement is 25 to 35. And I had roommates down there. I had two roommates. One was a 45-year-old who thought he was my dad. And the other one, he said he just got out of the military, but he said he was special forces. But we asked a couple of questions, and it was kind of I think it was a little bit of stolen valor going on there. He told some stories that did not make a whole lot of sense. But the point is, we had room inspections because it was kind of like military school or boot camp. And I was from a, you know, background where everyone helped. So I told the individuals, my roommates said, hey, hey, you get the mop, you do this. And they refused. They flat out refused. They're like, oh no, our room's good enough. Okay. I decided to have a little fun with them because the 45-year-old tried to say, well, now Eric. And I stopped him. I said, don't talk to me like you're my dad. I just asked you to do a simple thing. And he didn't want to help. The other guy didn't want to help. So the next day when we were down in the classroom, we would get like 10-minute breaks. And I ran upstairs and I decided to have a little fun with them. And I went into our room and I flipped both their bunks. And because that would happen on occasion, we get room inspected and sometimes the rooms would get tossed. So this went on week after week. I would pick a day and I would just go upstairs and I'd flip their bunks. And they're like, I would go down there. I'm like, man, what are you guys doing? You're not making your beds right. They flipped your bunks. They're like, what about yours? I said, mine's perfect. Mine didn't get touched. I think it was around, we were more than halfway through. They finally went to our instructors and they said, what are we doing wrong? And they kind of looked at him. They said, we stopped doing room inspections 5 weeks ago.
That's great.
So yeah, they didn't like me, but again, I don't get really mad. I'll just get revenge. And, I'm just going to punk you. Like, man, I came from a prank background in the military. So this is easy to do. So I don't know. I can't imagine what you guys would have if you actually had a quote unquote fire academy where you went away to.
Yeah. So I know, I know the career department here in town, they do an academy, but it's not a live-in. I should say the main city. It's not a live-in. So they go home every night, go home on the weekends. As far as I know, the only place that does a legit overnight academy would be like ILEA for the law enforcement.
Mhm.
I don't know of any. I'm sure there's probably an overnight academy for fire somewhere in the US, but I don't know of any.
Yeah, it's different. But I mean, we went home on the weekends, so it wasn't terrible. And what I noticed, it was hardcore for about a week. And they may change things. I mean, I've been out. I haven't been down there since '04. But for me, it was relatively easy because I had already survived, infantry. Going
Yeah.
down there, it wasn't a big challenge, but it was more. That's why I could have fun. We just had fun, and I think it was Super Troopers had just come out, so we were quoting Super Troopers the entire time down there. When we did night pursuits on the EVOC track, that's the emergency vehicle ops, operations course. We were quoting, and one of my guys got on the radios, and he's like, "We're in pursuit, mother of God." And, the drill.
Unit 91. Unit 91. Come in, Unit 91.
We out there. We're like, all right, meow. Doing stuff like that on the stops. Now again, my roommate down there, the academy, I was always paired with them. And the 45-year-old, he needed a partner when we were doing scenarios. I didn't want to be his partner. I'm like, all right, whatever. So we drive up to the scenes. You're in the academy patrol car, and I get out and I'm standing by the car because he leaves it running. And he's like, come on, you're my backup. I said, okay, well, take the keys out of the car. This is my show. It's my scenario. You're my backup. I said, okay, got it. So I walked with him. And at that point, I'm all right, it's his show. I see the instructor sneaking behind the cars. So we're in a car lot with all of the cars. I know what's about to happen. So I get on my simulator radio. I'm like, yep, unit so-and-so, dispatch be advised, our squad was just stolen. Can you send backup? And he's like, what are you talking about? That? And you just see our car go driving away. So the other instructor that's walking with us, he's laughing. He goes, yeah, clear. Do you have a description of that suspect? And I said, yeah, it's affirmative. He's wearing an out-of-date denim jacket and he's smaller than a leprechaun. And that was one of the instructors. He's dying laughing now. And the entire squad is just like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And I'm just staring at my roommate partner. I was like, really, bro? Maybe you should listen to me. But yeah, it came full circle the next time. So we had to stand, anytime you do anything, you have to stand in inspection. He comes walking up to me and he's like, smaller than a leprechaun, huh? No offense. He just shook his head. He laughed. He's like, no. It was a good one. But no, it was, like I said, for me, it was a really good experience down there. They don't teach you everything. I mean, they have the points that they teach you. You know, you have to get certified on firearms and you have to get certified, in defensive tactics, emergency vehicles, and the driving and the stops, and then criminal law, just all these different steps that you have to do. And it's not, for me, it was more just the book work was the only thing I really worried about. So, but the rest of the time, like I said, I just had fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I might pursue it. I don't know. But, one of the other things that I used to enjoy, since we're kind of getting, well, not kind of, this episode's going to drop the day before Christmas. We used to, in our ambulance, we would decorate the back of the truck. We'd hang up Christmas lights or, do something crazy like that. We'd wear like Santa Claus hats going on calls or whatever. And some guys would go a little bit hog wild with it. I think I saw one crew wear like a Grinch costume one time and, just some random crap. But again, it comes back to you got to have some fun with the job. Like, you can't let the crap get to you. Humor plays a big role.
Yeah, I don't know if you were. I know it was because the department you used to be on, when we really got to know each other. I was thinking about this today. This time of year is the silly season. Just our mental health calls go up, and sometimes you just run into the unexpected. I don't know if you were on the call with me. We went for a dementia patient. And what happened was, we had everything we needed. She didn't know what year she was in. She's just not in a good frame of mind. So we're like, hey, we're going to go take you to see, get some help. She's like, okay, but I need something first. So she goes into the bedroom and it's kind of a hoarding situation. There's just stuff everywhere. And she's looking and this room's just packed. I mean, to the floor to the ceiling with stuff. And she is looking. I go, ma'am, what are you looking for? I'm looking for my husband. And we all looked at each other like, what? I just told my guys, I'm like, let's see where this goes. So I'm leaning against this bookshelf and suddenly something moves and this object falls and it's a Ziploc bag. And I catch it and it's dusty and it's full of like a gray powder. And I go, what? And I'm, my eyes are trying to catch up with my brain. I'm not getting it. She goes like, oh, there he is. What? And she goes, that's my husband right there. That's where I keep him. And I've got the gray powder, the ash all over my hands now. I go, here you go, ma'am. I hand it over. I looked at my guys. I go, I'll be outside. I need hand sanitizer now. They, they got her to put it down and everything. But yeah, it's just one of those. the unexpected calls where you never think catching a Ziploc bag, you're going to have, it's basically going to be a plastic urn of someone.
I was on a cardiac arrest call. Same thing. House was a hoarder house. And we're working this patient in the middle of a kitchen. And my chief at the time said, okay, I'll take over. So I stepped up to get out of the way and I tripped over something and fell up against a refrigerator. Well, on top of the refrigerator,
Mhm.
there were pots and pans, and they were just stacked. Like they didn't fit into each other, they were just stacked on top of each other. Well,
Mhm.
one pot fell down, hit me in the head. Another one came down, hit me in the head. My chief, to this day, when he tells the story, he says it looks like an episode of the Looney Tunes because it would drop, drop, drop.
Yeah.
And then finally, I just fell backwards. And I chuckle about it now, but at the time, I'm like, what the hell? I mean, it knocked me out cold. Like I was done.
Mhm.
But you're right. Some of the calls we go on, it's like wild. Like there's a city cop that is well known for she always gets the naked calls. She always gets, and
Mhm.
she used to work night shift. I think she still does. She would always get the naked calls, and it would be like naked guy running down downtown, or naked guy running down some middle of the road, or naked guy fighting. I think fighting a raccoon was a call one time. Just some of the most random stuff, but she would always get those calls. And so whenever, even to this day, whenever I see an article, it's usually from Florida. See if like
Mhm.
naked Florida man caught wrestling an alligator, taken to jail, and I'll send it to her. I'm like, hey, were you on this call? And then she just laughs and she's like, no, no, I was off that day. Or naked, California call. Were you on this call? No, I was off that day too. Just some of the funny humor stuff.
We
So
I
we're
get the
starting to
weird animal calls too.
have the weird what?
Just the weird I get the weird animal calls.
Yeah.
We
That's
had
one of the
the
things
loose
that I
bull.
couldn't do. I couldn't do like county or city because I've been on some structure fire calls where people have pet snakes or some kind of pet rodent,
Mhm.
and they want nothing to do with that. I am absolutely terrified of snakes, hate them. I don't care if they're a little bitty gardener snake or a giant anaconda. They're all anacondas to me. I want nothing to do with them. But when somebody's snake goes loose, or some neighbor says, hey, there's a snake in front of my garage, which is very common in Florida, no, I'm not going on that call. That's why I'm not a
Mhm.
conservation officer. That's what no want nothing to do with it. Keep that shit away from me.
Yeah, I'm lucky with no my ours are more like I said, the bulls get we had a bull get loose on out east. And when I showed up, he was chasing one of my rookies, which was really funny because one of my biggest rookies I've ever seen. And I get out and he's yelling, Corporal, help. And, just to see him, and this bull was probably like 2 years old. I mean, it was kind of I would consider it almost like a calf, but I mean, it's a calf that could hurt you. And yeah, we had to corral that thing, but we had no lassos, no nothing.
I'm
And I
surprised. You would
went
think being in the county, you'd have a lasso or something in the back of your squad car, right next to your AR.
right. Yeah. It's like, you never know. I think after this call, I think I priced them on Amazon just to see what it would cost. But the funny part was, you revert back to your sometimes your childhood or training. I mean, no one ever taught us, this is what you do for a bull. But I went up, I could tell he just wanted to play. So I went up and, kind of nuzzled his neck a little bit. It's like, hey, buddy, come on, let's follow. Well, he did start following me because I wanted to get him away from my rookie. Well, then he started kind of headbutting my shins, and he had those little horns that can still put the hurt on you. I really wasn't worried until he kind of pushed me up against a car. And that's when, a 300-pound bull can really, hurt you. So I went back to my childhood. My grandpa used to take me to a cow farm where he helped out the farmer. And those guys kind of taught me at a young age, hey, this is what you do. I reached back when this bull started about to push me up against the car, and I just open hand smacked him across the head. And you can see it on my body camera later where that bull just kind of did one of these. And it gave me the chance to escape. But my rookie was dumbfounded, and the other guys were like, "You just bitch slapped a bull." I'm like, "You have to do what you have to do. You got to show them who's in charge." But just stuff like that, it happens, and you never know what you're going to encounter. And that's what I love about our job, though, because yeah, there's good, bad, and ugly, and just bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the best way to wrap this up is to remind everybody, we've got Christmas coming up. Again, this is dropping on Wednesday. So you got Christmas coming up tomorrow. This time of year is rough for a lot of people. And for those that do work as first responders and you are working on Christmas or you're working on New Year's or whatever, understand that you are lucky and blessed to be able to do the job that you do. It may not seem like it. You may be going through a rough patch. You may be feeling burned out. You may be hating life. Maybe you don't like the holidays either. And that's why you maybe chose to work this. But I think what's important to remember is that the patients that we go on, the DUIs that we do, the traffic stops, the domestics, the whatever, on a normal day, that is the worst day of somebody's life. On the holidays, it's even worse because they're going to remember that day for the rest of their life. So try to show a little bit of empathy with the people that you come into contact with. Understand that people make mistakes, things happen, but let's try to limit the amount of mistakes that we make specifically on those days. We don't want to make people's days even worse. And it's hard to do. We become jaded. I was having that conversation also. Like I became very jaded when I was working, which was one of the reasons why I stepped away for a few years. I was to the point where I didn't know what it meant to show empathy to people, and I didn't like it. I felt bad about it. So just one of those things that we all need to remember coming up. Eric, you got any final words that you want to share? Words of wisdom before we wrap this up? It's kind of a short episode this week, but
It's all good. No, my words of wisdom would just be, don't make the job your entire life. It's I was the same way years ago. I started getting jaded, but I had to change what I was doing in my life. And now I have those little things that I do that kind of just help me decompress. For me, it sounds funny, but I cook. That's why I miss the summertime, because I have a Traeger out back that I put to
never
work every
cook for
week.
me. What the hell?
Hey, that's coming. But no, I mean, it literally, you have to find something. And I was told years ago, find something non first responder related, just something that takes your mind off of work. And I honestly, I just found my love for cooking. And if I wasn't doing this, I'd be a chef somewhere in a restaurant. But that's just that's my biggest word of wisdom. And enjoy your family time. When you are off, be there in the moment. Don't be thinking about, what's going on. I don't have a radio. My county radio is not on when I'm off duty. And I don't turn it on unless I get a call about maybe something that, like, someone got hurt. Then I'll turn it on. I think we're all like that. But other than that, just be home, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends.
Yep. Be in the moment. Enjoy the moment that you got. Awesome. Well,
Mhm.
buddy, I appreciate it as always. We'll have to get you on again. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities. Probably going to use you at some point as a special co-host because Cody's work schedule gets pretty busy, but we'll cross that line when we come to it.
Okay.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you.
Hey, thanks a lot.